Okay.
Okay, Tom, what's your second tip for us?
My second tip is to provide explicit scaffolds for verbal responses, which means that you help students have some sort of stock phrases that you use relevant to your subject when they're giving answers, which helps them sort of get going with a verbal answer, but it also keeps them to the sort of the depth of the answer you're expecting, and also can prepare them for writing. So a couple of examples would be, which I've seen, were firstly, secondly and finally. So you've asked students in a pair to come up with 3 reasons for something, or 3 advantages, and the teacher had written on the board firstly, secondly and finally, and she just pointed at that. So when she said, okay, Jessica, let's hear yours, what did you guys come up with? And she would say, well, firstly, secondly and finally. And I thought that's a brilliant way of getting them to definitely have 3 things, and also that's the kind of thing you might do when you're writing. So you're practicing saying something, and we don't normally speak like that in normal conversation, so it's easy to sort of not do that, but it's an explicit rehearsal for writing. But also, I just thought, that's so clever, because they all are coming up with 3 things. And it just works so well, and I've seen that with lots of other ones, like advantages and disadvantages. So I saw a brilliant lesson recently, Year 5 lesson. They were talking about tourism climbing tourists on Snowdon, and whether it was a good thing or bad thing, and had to give an advantage and a disadvantage. And literally, there's a Year 5 saying, an advantage of tourism on Snowdon is, whereas a disadvantage is, boom. And they had to do opposing things, and they were using whereas. I was thinking, get that, that's great, because they're practicing saying whereas like it's just a normal word. Of course, when you're in Year 5, it's not a normal word. So that type of thing, that's like, it's so simple, and it's just, but you focus on one at a time. That's important. It's not like, here's a list of possible scaffolds, which is a mistake. We're just practicing this particular scaffold now, so that it's practiced. It's not just a kind of mess of options. And that's my sort of tip of how it works best.
That's lovely, that, Tom. What I really like about that is, it's not, I've made this mistake in the past, diving straight to expecting kids to write things down. So in maths, whenever kids have to explain, justify and so on, they really struggle. But I love the bridge is the fact that first they're getting used to verbalising it, and that's the natural transition to them writing it down. That seems like an important step in this.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the most obvious one is just full sentences. Now, some people say, you can't force kids to talk in full sentences, and of course that's not what you're after. You're just... So, for example, if you're a science teacher and you say, which of these is a metal or a non-metal, or is sulfur a metal or non-metal, and the students are just saying sulfur at you, or non-metal. If you just say, well, let's have that in a full sentence, then they have to say, the one that's a non-metal is sulfur, and it's practicing. Now, it's perfectly legitimate to say sulfur as the answer, but it's just practicing saying it in a sentence. Just build some skills around sentence construction for writing, and it's a simple scaffold. Put it in a sentence, and I've seen teachers use that really well.
That's a lovely tip. Really like that one, Tom.